And thank you to DQ for this opportunity and to the Department of Industry, Science and Resources for the travel grant support and attending. My name's John Hodgetts. I'm the Partnerships Manager for the Indigenous Desert Alliance, or IDA, and I'm based out of Mbrundua, or Alice Springs, on Central Arundel Country in the heart of Australia. The IDA is a member-based organisation, currently with 29 members who themselves are organisations running Indigenous Desert Ranger and Indigenous Protected Area programs across the desert country of Australia. I'm joined by three of my colleagues who will now introduce themselves.
Hello everyone, my name is Sam. Firstly, I just want to acknowledge the country that we're on now. It's a great honour coming from desert country to come here for this climate change conference in Belém. In my culture, it's really important to pay respects and honour the country that you're on and the custodians and the First Nations people that are caring for that country. I myself am a desert person. I'm a Yilka Wangatha Noongar woman. I'm also the Chief Executive Officer of Indigenous Desert Alliance.
Yeah, good morning everybody. My name's Kevin. I live in Broome, Yarra Jugun country. I'm the Indigenous Desert Alliance Regional Support Officer. I've been working with the IDA for 2 years, and previous to that I've spent the last pretty much 20 years living and working on Aboriginal communities, mainly in the northwest, in the Pilbara and the Kimberley region. And the last 15 years of that has been working closely with Indigenous rangers in the desert.
Hello everyone, my name is Jade. I am the People and Culture Officer at the Indigenous Desert Alliance. I'm also a proud Yilka, Ngarrindjatjara and Narungga woman from central part of WA and the Yorke Peninsula in South Australia. This is my first COP and I'm very privileged to be here and share the desert story with you guys today.
Thanks, team. So today I'll be facilitating a conversation with these three as we work through a series of slides to demonstrate, as per the title of this session, that cultural resilience equals climate resilience. Oh, I was too loud earlier. First up, and as seen on the screen, the IDA, we've created a series of posters that support and elevate the work of desert rangers. Sam, turning to you first, are you able to explain why and how they were created, what that means to you, and perhaps talk us through this first one?
So at IDA, we're really wanting to make sure that we communicate right way with our rangers and on behalf of our rangers. So we have created a series of posters with consultation with desert ranger teams to highlight the stories and talk about the work that they do. Now this is our flagship poster for IDA. It is when looking after country because country looks after us. As desert people and as First Nations people know that what we get from our country is really powerful and spiritual, and that it's really, really important that we take care of that country because it looks after us. So this poster has a big pride of place in a lot of ranger team groups and our office, and we're really proud of the series of posters to communicate right way what rangers do.
Kev, you work with ranger teams across the northwest of Western Australia. How are ranger teams using these posters?
Yeah, Johnny, well, a lot of rangers are using this poster to communicate and generate discussion around climate change. People are worried about climate change and they want to know more about it. A lot of the media and the communication around climate change doesn't necessarily get to the desert, to the traditional owners living in remote communities. So the rangers are really used as a way to kind of communicate this knowledge. Desert people see and feel the effects of climate change really acutely. The desert's getting much hotter. It's getting harder to live there. The impacts of rainfalls, inconsistent rainfalls, can be felt from years of really dry spells to intense storms with flash flooding. So it's definitely really concerning to Indigenous people in the desert about climate change, and rangers are doing a great job in communicating that. There can be a feeling of helplessness, of a feeling of that the problem is too large for people to tackle. So sometimes for these smaller ranger programs, there's this really feeling of that the problem is too large. But people know how to look after the desert, and they know how to look after country and how to adapt. They've been doing it for thousands of years.
Yeah. So yeah, moving on from a bit of that, at the IDA, climate resilience isn't just about adapting; it's about continuing culture. For us as Indigenous people and as rangers, resilience comes with connection and responsibility for country. So it means seeing healthy people it means we're seeing healthy country. So this gives us an opportunity to take the next generation and our children back out on country. They're learning from elders, they're hearing their dreaming stories, or as from our area it's called Dukuba, and they're learning how to care for water and land, but they're learning how to burn the country right way and gathering bush foods. But these points that I'm making about getting this next generation out on country, it also means these practices they're not cultural practices to us. They're proven climate solutions built over thousands of years, and they're going to be continuing as long as we continue to teach these.
Thanks, team. This next poster just shows the size of the desert. We've got on the left a list of our members and the 70-odd ranger programs within it. Sam, it's a big desert, isn't it?
Yes, it's a big desert. Always acknowledging that desert country, arid and semi-arid country, covers roughly a third of Australia. And there's a lot of mob out there. There's a lot of country out there. There's a lot of Jukurba dreaming stories, different dialects, different languages. So we collectively say desert people, but everyone has their own country that they speak for and that they know the stories for. And so it's a big space in the middle of Australia. And there's some figures up there about some of the information that shows some numbers on how big it is. That country is Yilka country, that's Jade and I's country, and that's our cousins and uncle burning country right way out on Yilka country in the Great Victorian Desert. And I love this photo because it's a very small snapshot. It's from Kirakara country, which is Australia's most remote community, and in actual fact ranks up there as one of the world's most remote community. And those cars out there look so tiny, like little toy cars. And it just shows the desert is a really, really big place.
Jade, does it all look like this?
So no, it's actually pretty vast. So across the IDA network, we work in diverse desert country. Some areas you'll see a spinifex plains stretching across the horizon. Some areas you'll see red desert dirt and the sand dunes, or shrubland with bushlands. But all these ranges and waterholes hold special meanings and dreaming stories. And then we sometimes work with groups that the desert meets the ocean. So, to many it might just seem like a very dry place, but each of these areas that our rangers work in, there's still stories that are alive, and there's still culture and there's knowledge. And, we have the privilege of working with rangers all across the desert. We recently took our funder out on a trip. It was a long trip. It was a 5-hour trip, leaving, a community and travelling out to their area. We travelled through shrubland, some rocky little hills that we had to climb, and we were welcomed so slowly onto that country, and we had no expectation of what we were going to see. But at the sudden end of this journey, we were met with this amazing waterhole that held like a really strong dreaming story to them about a cheeky woman that they tell everyone. And we had to go meet her and be welcomed onto the country. But yeah, there's so many hidden and amazing surprises throughout the desert.
So big desert, huge amount of variation. Kev, what's some of the work that Indigenous land managers are doing out there?
Yeah, thanks, Johnny. Well, the Rangers are doing the work people have always done. They're doing it in a modern context, but they're looking after country as people have done for thousands of years. People have always walked the country. They've looked after country with fire, cared for water holes. They've looked after the native plants and bush tucker, and practiced ceremony on country to keep culture strong. The desert's vast, and to access this, people now use four-wheel drive motor cars and choppers. There's not that intimate connection. Well, there's still an intimate connection with country, but people aren't walking through the country. In the last 40 or 50 years, there's been a slight disconnect, and people are now, through the ranger programs, are able to get out on country a lot more and practice the work that they've always done. These days, rangers use modern science and technology to monitor and support in their Indigenous land management. They work with partners like the IDA and others, and that's an important part of what ranger work looks like today. It must be said that even with all the modern support that the ranger programs are getting, and they're very sophisticated these days, it's all strongly underpinned by a cultural framework. The rangers have got steering committees and cultural advisory committees that sanction and develop work programs for the rangers. So rangers, all the rangers' modern work is firmly rooted in cultural support. The IDA also looks for opportunities to connect rangers together. We value peer-to-peer learning, and quite often some of the best kind of learning outcomes, if I could say that, are when rangers are actually teaching rangers about the work that they've been doing. We also regularly support rangers to travel and around Australia and globally to promote the work that they're doing, to speak up about country and culture in the desert, and to draw the attention of the wonderful work that they're doing globally.
And a lot of animals out in the desert as well, Sam. We've got another poster that we've created here. Are you able to speak a little bit more about some of the animals of the desert?
Yes, so this poster is threatened species, which will need to change to significant species. Threatened species are considered, there's different KPIs according to the government where an animal might be considered threatened, whether or not there's not enough numbers. And there's a really good change to that, or addition, that culturally significant species are now being more recognised. And these are animals that Indigenous people might have a jugurba or dreaming attached to. They might be a big source of food. They might be somewhat of a mascot for a particular tribe in the desert. So it's amazing that we're able to talk about how some animal might be threatened species, but also there's some animals that are considered really culturally important, and that now that Aboriginal people and rangers can actually eventually begin to access funding to support those culturally significant animals, and that's pretty cool. Some of the animals you see out there, the Blackfoot wallaby on the rock there, all different little creatures out there, and again, just saying again that the desert's full of animals and stories and people, and we sometimes get told, we didn't know that there were animals out there, let alone people. So we're always saying there's beautiful animals out there and beautiful stories and jugurba out there. And the great desert skink, which is in the corner here, it's a very liked animal. Mob used to just grab it and eat it. It's had a high fat content, so they would just chomp on it if they were getting a bit hungry. And the important things about the work that we do with the great threatened species, IDA has one of the first Indigenous-led threatened species recovery plan. I think we actually have the first. So that's about balancing with science and culture, and we make sure they both go along together. The Great Desert Skink, well, we have ecologists and scientists, and we have monitoring programs and an event that we do every year. We also have the cultural part of things where we have in-Mars ceremonies, increased ceremonies, which is mob dancing to support the Great Desert Skink to have more kids. So it's really entwined in the desert, and it's something we're really proud to keep supporting at IDA.
Thanks, Sam. We've got a lot of threats to these significant animals as well. Next few slides will share a few of the key threatening processes, many of which are intertwined. One of the most devastating, which I'm sure you've all heard of, is the feral cat, or feral predators in general, but the one that's had the biggest impact is the cat. You can see on this first slide that great desert skink. I mean, hopefully a different one you saw in the previous slide, but that cat has taken a great desert skink from its burrow. And on the right, we've got one of the Kirakura rangers that has hunted and tracked and removed the feral cat from the system. The Kirakura rangers are renowned across the desert for their cat hunting skills, and it's worth remembering that cats probably came to Australia with sort of first fleets and have been around for 200 years, but would have made their way to Central Australia long before colonisers. So Pinnipee people moving through the Gibson Desert have probably been hunting cats for quite a number of years now and been using their phenomenal tracking skills to do so. And around Kirakura, significant species like the bilby and the great desert skink are holding on, where people continue to hunt and track cats. And these rangers are a very well sought resource to share their knowledge and skills with other ranger groups both inside and out of the desert space. So renowned are the Kirakura rangers that for the Aussies in the audience you might recognise Tony Armstrong top left. And he came out to film an episode of ABC's Eat the Invaders last year, and like myself has now cooked and tasted cat and can confirm that it does taste just a little bit like chicken. And the last pic shows some more of those Kirakura rangers, including a member on the right hand side of Kurchi Ward, and she's one of the Pinnipee 9, so we're still living a fully nomadic traditional life, unaware of European colonisation until the mid-80s, and her daughter's actually to the left of her. But again, those traditional skills are very well sought after, and Kurchi has shared that knowledge not just amongst her own, but has travelled extensively to share more. A little bit bigger than the cat, Kev, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about the camel story.
Yeah, camels are an introduced species in the desert that also impact significantly on the ecosystem. They were introduced into the desert by early white explorers, and they were favoured for their durability and their ability to last a long time without water. So after they finished supporting the work, they were turned out into the desert and quickly populated the desert and, kept thrived and found it very suitable. And they are now possibly the recent figures are in the 4 million. So there's a huge amount of camels out there. They can drink up to 100 litres of water per sitting. So this can really impact on these fragile little water systems, water places in the desert. They routinely foul and poison water holes and leave it in a degraded state. So the native animals find it really hard to access the water. They're also, because they range far and wide over the desert, they also transport invasive weed species.
Yeah, thanks, Kev. So yeah, the species of weeds that Kev's mentioned is bufflegrass, and it's having a huge impact across the desert. It's choking our native plants, and it's causing a lot of effects on our native animals and our biodiversity, as well as our cultural practices. So when bufflegrass burns, it burns hot, and this leads to destructive fires. So these fires, are what we're trying to control in the desert. But as well as the fire, the rain. As soon as we get a heavy rainfall, it spreads the seeds, and it's damaging those sacred sites that we're trying to protect and our ecosystems. But when the seeds are spreading, it's becoming harder to read the country. So rangers have that challenging job of trying to maintain this, as well as all their other cultural obligations. But they're doing it slowly with more support. But in doing this, we're protecting the biodiversity, and we're going to start seeing that healthy country again.
Yeah, thanks, Jade. Fire's probably the number one threat in the desert for biodiversity and intact landscape. These fires can be incredibly hot, and left unchecked, some of their fire fronts can be hundreds of kilometres long. They essentially cook the earth, and they travel at such a fast rate that all the little kind of little critters, marsupials and so forth, don't have time to get away from these fire fronts. You know, photos like this are really devastating to see. You know, we can only see a small snapshot there, but if you're up in a helicopter and you see this as far as the eye can see, then the impact of a hot fire like that is absolutely is terrible to witness. It also cooks the seed in the earth of the spinifex, so it takes a long time to repopulate from these fires. They also pump out a huge amount of carbon into the atmosphere. So a big part of what the rangers are doing with their early season burning is to stop that carbon getting emitted.
So, yeah, on that point, Kev, we know that fire can be well managed and has been for many thousands of years. We've created another poster. I promise, there we go. Using the term right way. Sam, are you able to explain what that term means with the cultural context?
So we hold the Right Way Desert Fire Project, which is the world's biggest fire management program. It's quite a lot of thousands of kilometres, hundreds of kilometres of country up in the top part of WA and NT. And when we use the word right way, we're using it two ways. First, right way, obviously operationally, it's done in a focused way. And more importantly, it's done right way culturally. So when we say it's something is done right way, what we mean as Indigenous people is that it follows cultural guidelines, it has cultural protocols that have been taken into account, that it's done by the right people at the right time. So for a lot of people, desert people still use fire. Fire was our biggest tool to shape the country. And it seems a little bit funny following on from the previous one where fire's out of control, but right way cultural burning removes or limits or downplays the impact that those big fires have. So applying fire in the country in the right way means that it's better for the environment, it's better for culture and community. So we really endorse right way fire practices that's really led by mob on the ground that know their country.
Sam, Jade, do you want to tell us about the picture we can see above us now?
Yeah, so the image you see behind me is actually the Yulka Rangers. So pretty proud that we get to share that image, that this is from the area that Sam and I are both from. It holds a lot of, it holds a lot to us. It's where our family are from, where they were born, where they'll probably continue to live for a really long time. But, in this image you can see that they're doing a cool burning on the ground. So this is usually done between March to September is the right period to do this kind of a burn. They're using techniques with drip torches or fire sticks and matches. But these cool burns prevent destructive wildfires in the summers. So, as Sam mentioned, these kinds of burns are done by the right people, the right time and the right place, but guided by cultural knowledge. So yeah, keeping the country healthy and supporting the biodiversity and continuing cultural practices that we've looked after for thousands of years.
Yeah, that's right, Jade. So those previous slides where you see those people kind of walking through the landscape is the way that it's always been done. But obviously when people have walked off the desert or forced off in a lot of cases off the desert, we've had, Indigenous people have had to kind of pivot their way. They engage with fire. So now, ideally, people should be walking through the country, putting in nice, slow burns in that intimate way. But these days, we've got such a huge area to cover. Rangers now use helicopters and machines like the rain dance machine. This photo up there on the left-hand side is a mate of mine, Bayo Taylor from Bidjananga community. He's using a rain dance machine which injects the chemical into a little capsule and ejects it out of the plane or the helicopter, and it'll ignite after a small period of time. So rangers will plan for many weeks leading up to a burn like that. They'll pore over GIS satellite reference maps to make sure that they know where to burn, where to the cultural sites to avoid, and they will place fire in the landscape in order to create these patchy burns to arrest these late season hot fires.
Thanks, Kev. We've actually got a short video that hopefully will be playing across these next 2 weeks in the pavilion on the Right Where Fire programme, so I do encourage you to check that out at some point. This brings us to the end of this more formal part of our session, and so my thanks to Sam, Jade and Kevin for their insights. We're going to end our time here by having a bit of a yarn. I'm going to join the other three and hand over to my boss to lead this closing section. Thank you.
Thanks, Johnny. I'll give you a score out of 10 later on. So this, firstly, before I yarn up, and this photo is of our IDA conference we have every 2 years, and we meet in Ulara, which is near Uluru, Ezrock, and it's ranger teams. It's a conference for rangers. In that photo, you will see 430 rangers and support staff and allies. And how many people do we have of those groups, different ranger teams?
54 ranger program.
54 ranger teams being represented in that photo, and that's a really proud photo for me, especially seeing desert ranger teams coming together and have an opportunity at the end of the year to share their stories and yarn up about what they've been doing all year. So wanting to do a bit of a yarning circle, so I might get Johnny to turn around a little bit as well. It's really important at IDA, a lot in the desert, that we have a lot of non-Indigenous allies who know how to work with Indigenous people the right way. We have to advocate that and bring non-Indigenous people into the space so they understand to work with mob the right way. We have a lot of ranger coordinators out there, ecologists, botanists, anthropologists, and so it's really important that those people that come into the space to work with mob do it the right way, and that they're focused on facilitating and elevating desert voices. So I'm just going to ask Johnny and Trumpy a question, and then me and Jade are going to have a bit of a yarn, and that brings the end to our session. So for Johnny and Trumpy, in terms of why is it important to support mob, but more importantly, what does it mean to you supporting ranger teams in the desert?
I guess when I think about supporting ranger teams in the desert and ranger communities, it's all about going out bush. It's all about rolling up swags and heading into the bush. And some of the ranger programs in the desert that I've been really blessed to spend time with, it's sometimes get off the road, get off the track, and make your own road. You know, there's a real when you're that far remote into the desert, there's a real sense of togetherness, a sense of camaraderie. Sometimes you're travelling through the landscape and you're fixing 15 tyres by lunchtime, and it's incredibly it can be incredibly stressful, but people handle it with such enthusiasm and humour that it's just incredible to be part of these programs. I've felt really connected with these ranger programs and with these communities. We've laughed together many times around the campfire and shared yarns, but we've also lost people and had to attend far too many funerals. So that's not a nice part of it, but it's really kind of, it's a feeling of family. It's much more than a job, really. It's very meaningful and it's very challenging, but it's by and far it feels like the right thing to do.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, for me, I think the biggest change for me has been a change of mindset. I think I sort of fell into this sector, on and off 10 years ago, and have moved in a series of different roles, but in all of the jobs that I've had, sort of building relationships, working with mob out on country. I was fortunate enough to help 3 communities establish ranger programs and working with traditional owners there, and noticing that their trust in me grew with every trip, their faith in me, my relationship with them deepened, and being yeah, taken out. I've been very fortunate to go to some spots where we're returning sort of old men and women and taking young people out to a country that hasn't been visited for 30, 40 years, and to be sort of allowed to be a part of that and a part of it through the strength of relationships, to be trusted, and to see, for me, to see just over those 10 years, to start to see country differently, to see it a different way, is very humbling, and it's something I don't take for granted, and it's made it increasingly likely that I'm here to stay, because once those relationships and get into you, and certainly working in the desert space, I've got a lot of close friends and colleagues, and as I think Sam mentioned somewhere, I don't know if it was earlier today, but the professional and personal boundaries are often blurred in the space that we work in. But yeah, I think for me, why I stick around, it's that change of mindset, and it's being able to see country differently. There you go. Not much more to add.
Thanks, Johnny. Now over to Jade, who has the fortunate and unfortunate thing of not only being an RDA team member, but she's also my little cousin. So I can be quite hard on Jade. But Jade, do you want to share with the audience, and what's your piece of, knowledge or advice that you'd want everyone to walk away and understand from what we do? And we work very hard and passionately for our mob. What do you think the audience and people need to know or hear or take away from what we yarn about as desert women?
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't really want to complicate it. I just want to keep it quite simple. During NAIDOC Week, the celebration in Australia, celebrating our culture, and the theme was around, the next generation. So I started talking to my kids about what do you want the world to know about desert mob and people? And my 10-year-old son said it very clearly. We're still here. We know what to do. We're going to continue looking after culture. And, yeah, for me, that was just a simple message. We're the current caretakers of this land. Nobody owns it. They're going to be the future caretakers. And it's really good to hear that he's, already got that spark. And I have two very courageous and confident children. I don't know where they get it from because it's not me. But they just have this spark and this yearning for country. They're always bugging me, when are we going to get back out on country? Which is 12 hours away from Perth for us now. So the moment we have that opportunity, they're listening, they're learning, they're asking those questions, and it's good to have them, but also I hope that, we continue to have those allies that are going to support them to carry this on into the future as well.
Thanks, Jade. So we come to the end of our session, and just to finish off with, for us at the IDA, we endorse and encourage cultural resilience equals climate resilience. As everyone knows, when First Nations people are allowed to care for the environment and the country that they are on, that they have the stories and the connections we know how to care for that environment the right way. Aboriginal people have a good track record. We've been doing it for a little while now. Not too many mishaps at all in that story. We know how to speak to country. We know how to listen to country. So it's really important that Indigenous people, First Nations people from around the world are really encouraged and supported and respected and given the space and the support to continue practicing the way that they always have. It's been proven that when First Nations people are there, that country is always better. So cultural resilience for us equals climate resilience, and that's the only way that we need to go. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us. It's been an honour to be here and share our story. And, we look forward for the rest of the COP to spend time with everybody. If there's any questions, put your hand up. If not, thank you very much from me and the team. Thank you.
Hi, sorry. Thank you so much for that amazing presentation. I was just wondering if there were any kind of government initiatives or policies that were actually, using traditional ways of knowledge in formal programs to protect environment, or whether that's kind of a struggle that you've been grappling with as well as First Nations people.
So IDA holds, I believe, might have been the first, if not one of the first, Indigenous-led recovery plans for threatened species. So the Great Desert Skink, that little orange animal you saw on the side, and that combines cultural knowledge with science, ecology-based sport. So we have, proof that you can bring those two together and have a recovery plan for an animal, and it actually works. So we do get supported on those avenues. We obviously always need more support to create that. But in terms of formal processes, it can come together as long as the spaces respect and cultural knowledge is held there on equal, if not above, science knowledge. Great question, by the way.
Hello, thank you so much for this wonderful Oh, yeah, sorry. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. And it's really good to see a presentation on grasslands and deserts in a conference which is largely dominated by narratives on forests and trees. I'm a grassland ecologist from Asia, and one thing that I want to ask the panelists is, how do you advocate for non-forested ecosystems like deserts in your case in a climate negotiation space which is again largely focused on planting more trees, having more greenery? So
Very simple. Talk really loud and talk lots. And anyone who knows me well knows that I do a fair bit of that as well. But it is about representation, so that's a good question. There's a lot of spaces where a lot of times I might be the only desert person there, and I hope to change that and have more mob come. But good diverse representation of different country is important anywhere you are, Australia or international. You have to have people at the table, and it's different country, and we have to be represented, because you can't get a whole, climate change is impacting everybody. It's not impacting certain people and ignoring others. Desert people are one of the most impacted people, as well as our islander brothers and sisters. But eventually, as a global thing, it is impacting everyone. So you kind of have to have different people able to speak up for different country and have that at the table. So, yeah, just talking loud and lots and having a lot of people in the room talking on that country is the only way to really do it, especially at places like this.
Hatito Hues Lasamomo. Hi, thank you for your presentation. My name is Coral. I'm a grad student from the United States and a tribal citizen there. I wanted to ask what the international collaborations with Indigenous peoples look like, if you have any specific examples of work that you've done or been involved in or heard of it, and where you see the future of that going.
This will be my third COP that I've attended. And what you find pretty quickly is First Nation mob are dealing with very similarly the same things, because the priorities of country, culture and community are always there. So it's really great to have those spaces, because as First Nations people connected with other First Nations people, there's things we can learn off each other. Might be ways that they've tried different approaches or, processes in their bit of country that we could try back home and take back to Desert Mob. So what I find is that space to connect on an international level with different First Nations mob is really comes out powerful, because you come out stronger with different approaches to looking after the environment. So just more of being facilitated to have more of those dialogues with each other is where people can put support behind. I think that might be just waiting for someone to, yep. Right. All good. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'll see you around.